Welcome to the Power of Design podcast. My name is Jack Osa. I'm an architect, born and raised in Colombia, South America. Years ago, I migrated to the United States to follow my dreams, and today I'm the founder and principal of Osa Studio, a multidisciplinary architectural design firm in Charlotte, North Carolina. In this podcast, we talk about design, business, creativity, and the inspiration we need to create an exciting and powerful built environment.
Our guest today is Jefferson Ovalle, CEO of Genesis Construction. Jefferson and his team specialize in retail renovations, self-storage transformations, and new build-ups, boasting an impressive portfolio that spans over 1 million square feet of construction. Their expertise also extends to exterior building imaging and the overall improvement of real estate footprints, making them pioneers in revitalizing self-storage facilities. Jefferson is a passionate first-generation immigrant from Colombia who not only takes immense pride in his work, but also places his family at the core of his world. This is my conversation with Jefferson.
Hey Jefferson, welcome to the Power of Design podcast. How are you today?
I'm pretty good, Jack. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Cool. So tell me about your day today. How was it?
It was good. It was pretty intense. I did a lot of things today. I started the morning I got invited to be at a board of advisors, and I think that's something that I'm pretty into, serving and giving back. Then sales prospects, lunch with the wife, meeting with an engineer, and then I was trying to make sure I have enough time to be here on time. I have to postpone this twice.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to do it again. I was very I have to leave the office.
Yes.
Don't talk to me. So
Awesome.
yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we met about 3 or 4 years ago, and I've really enjoyed getting to know you. I'm always very inspired, and I learn a lot when we talk. Not only because we're in the same industry. You're growing a construction business, but we both also being from Colombia. I feel that we have parallel lives, and there are a lot of things that I have gone through and I've been going through that could be very similar to your experience, and I think that's why I felt there is a lot that I get out of us, meeting and talking. So I'm very excited to talk to you today and having other people listen to your story.
Okay, well, I appreciate it. Likewise, I feel like every time we hang out and we talk, we learn a ton from one another, and we have very similar stories. We have very similar backgrounds. The stories might be different in certain parts, but the overall picture, chasing the American dream is
that's
kind of
right.
the same
And
for both of us.
how many times have I said, "Oh man, we should have recorded this conversation."
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
There are many podcasts we missed, but
Exactly.
we're doing it right now.
I'm glad it only took us 3 years, but
Yeah,
here we are, right?
Yeah, it's happening. Cool. So I always like to start by understanding, who the person is, so the listeners can get to know you a little bit more. Why don't you tell us about your upbringing? Being in Colombia, how did you come to United States, and then take us in a quick journey of your career to where you are today, owning Genesis Construction.
Okay, sure. Born and raised in Bogota, Colombia, just like you. Growing in the 80s in Colombia was a different thing. A lot of stereotypes, and Colombia was going through the roughest period of their history between, the war and everything. So, but it was an amazing upbringing, man. I grew up on such a vibrant city, and Colombia, Bogota had so many things to teach people growing up like me. So around at the end of the 90s, I finished high school, and I was raised by a single mom, so there was not many options. There was no money for college or school. My sister has left the country early in the 90s, and she moved to Germany, where she met her now husband, well, actually, ex-husband. They divorced, but they moved to the States, and that's on from 98 to 99, that Christmas. She went to Colombia with her husband, and she wanted to introduce her husband to the family. And at that point is where my mom and my granddad, who was my father figure, asked her, look, he's done with high school, he's working odd jobs, no money for college, would you help him to go to the States? And newly married, she was hesitant. I was what you could consider a potential issue
Yeah.
in their marriage.
A
So
liability.
a liability, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
But she asked my brother-in-law, and who now I account like another brother, and he said, no, let's give him the opportunity. And they helped me come in, getting my visa and getting here. And I moved June 2nd, 1999. So it's been 24 glorious years here in the Carolinas. That's how I got here.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, how was? Were you? Did you come to Charlotte directly, or where were they living?
No, they were here because he was in the army. Then he moved into a branch. It's not retirement, but it's not like full-time army, right? So he also took a civil job for Bank of America, and Bank of America has been here since. So he trained in Charleston, and then they moved to Charlotte, and that's where they started their family, their first home.
Got it.
So I moved to Charlotte in '99, and man, that was a change because comparing it to Bogota, Charlotte was really a very small, very slow pace town.
Yeah.
It's nothing like what it is now. A lot of the things now that exist didn't exist back then.
Sure.
485 was still three little pieces that they
Oh,
were
yeah.
trying to put together. So,
Yeah.
it was different. It was different. You can tell the same thing. When
Oh,
you
sure.
moved here,
Yeah.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, what was your first job? So you get here, and they're like, okay, like, what you need to do something.
Yes. So I also have a cousin that had moved here before me, and we grew up together. She's like a sister to me as well. And when I got my visa, I told her, look, I need a job. Would you help? And she said, of course, I got a job. And literally 2 days after I came in, I was working, and I took a job as a painter, something that I'd never done before. But that was the job. That was the opportunity, right? You come into this country with a dream and a bunch of hopes, and that was the gateway of doing something and changing our lives.
How did you feel when you were out there painting? If you
So
can go back there.
There is a funny story, but as I told this story not long ago, my cousin called me and she's like, it wasn't like that. It was like this. So I still don't know. But it was hard. It was in the middle of the summer. Charlotte is very humid. I grew up in Bogota, where, it's 37, is it 27? Yeah, 2,700 meters sea level. So it's very high, and here was very humid. So the anecdote is I was under the stairs painting, and my side of the story tells that I passed out.
Yeah.
My cousin tells me that I fell asleep.
Yeah,
I don't know. The truth
that's
is, I
hard
don't
to
know.
believe.
Yeah, but that was it. That was the first job. I paint a whole bunch of stairs, and I worked with them for like probably 6 months. But when I came in to live with my sister and her husband, one of the things that my brother-in-law told me was, you need to focus on two things: always pay your taxes and learn English. Because your
Great
level
advice.
your level of English is gonna dictate the level of work that you're going to do.
Sure.
So if you want to do manual labor and be out there and sweat all day, and which is nothing wrong with that, but that's what you want to do, then you can, forget about English and just focus on your Spanish. But if you want to move up the chain, your English is gonna help you.
Sure.
So after 6 months of working with these guys, they're all people from Costa Rica, dear friends of mine till the day. I was like, man, I'm not gonna learn any English here. So I talked to my brother-in-law. By then he was the branch manager of Bank of America in South Boulevard. So he talked to one of his buddies who owned a dealership in South Boulevard,
Mm-hmm.
and that guy got me a job working for another guy who owned a cell phones and beepers store.
Mm-hmm.
And I went and worked for him. I was making half the money,
Yeah.
working twice the hours,
Sure.
but I was learning English.
Sure.
And,
Yeah.
and that was the first job where I could started to see, okay, yeah, my brother-in-law's right. So if I can, I'm working more hours, but I'm learning.
Right. And you, I guess, would you interacting with customers?
Yes.
Yeah, because that's the
Yes.
best way to learn. But
It
you
is.
have to talk to people and you have to understand, and they have to understand you.
That is absolutely right. It's funny because I was working for Arabs on an African American neighborhood.
Yeah.
So the combination of accents was
Oh, wow.
really, really
Yeah.
weird and funny at the same time. But I got my first set of, I can now talk to people, I can move around, I can do better. And I worked for him for about 2 years. After that, an opportunity came with Coca-Cola. I was the guy who literally put your bottle of Coke on the shelf
Yeah.
at the stores. And I got to work with a great guy who came from Boston or Chicago. His English was really, really, he was very well spoken. So he teach me a lot. And from Coca-Cola, then to Black & Decker, then to United Dominion still is a company who owns tons of apartment units
Mm-hmm.
throughout the country. I started to lease apartments, then I became an assistant manager and a property manager. And I did that for a couple of years until I met who the painter for the company was. He was a subcontractor. He came and painted the apartments for us. And the guy walks in one day into my office and he says, hey man, he's from Mexico. And he said to me, I just spent the weekend in Charleston, South Carolina, and there's no one doing painting there. Would you like to go there and work for me, like business development, and go open a branch there? And, the one responsibility I had was, but now I have moved to my own place.
Mm-hmm.
I brought my mom from Colombia. She was living with me. So I say, you know what? Yeah, I'll do it. And I moved to Charleston. I told him, look, I don't want to be an employee. By then, I always been an entrepreneur. So I wanted to have something on my own.
Yeah.
So I told him, look, I'll do it, because I was going to take a pay cut to go gamble in Charleston.
Sure.
And I told him, look, I'll do it, but I want a piece of the pie. I want ownership.
Yeah.
And he said, look, if you hit these goals within the next year, I'll do it. I'll give you 10% of the company that you open, of the
Yeah.
branches that you open. And that sounded good to me.
That's
I was like,
pretty
okay,
good.
that's
Yeah.
that's how you gain ownership. But then the same way came in the first big business lesson I
Yeah.
learned in life. I didn't put it in paper.
Ah,
So
good one.
I went and did it, man. 9 months. I remember the goal was like $600,000 in the first year on
Yeah.
sales or something like that. We did $1.3 million.
Wow.
Yes, he gave me a great crew. He gave me everything that I needed. He
Yeah.
gave me the infrastructure. I moved there. I have a nice apartment by the ocean, and I had a lot of fun. But when at the 9th month is when we hit the $1 million mark,
Yes.
and I told him, "Look, man, we gotta talk. Let's talk about what we are."
Yeah.
So he came into Charleston, and we had lunch. And over lunch, I told him, "So I hit my marks. Let's talk with a lawyer. Let's
Yeah.
make it official." And that's when he told me, "You know what, Jefferson? I talked to my wife, and we decided that we want to keep our business a family business, and I don't think we're gonna do it." And it's funny because back then, I was 24 years old probably. And I was like, well, but what do you mean? We have an agreement.
Yes. Yeah. How is
And
this happening?
he said, yeah, but I think the agreement changed. We can give you a bigger salary. You can make more money. You can commission this and that. But at that very moment, I felt like this is it.
Yeah.
I need to open my own business. I'm gonna do it on my own. Forget corporate America. Forget working for somebody else. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna do it on my own.
Okay. I want to know a part of the story, which is the one you're telling without telling. What telling someone that give you an opportunity, okay, I want a piece of the pie, that's pretty advanced. Like to have that awareness, like it took me probably 20 years to is can you ask that question? Most people, even as an immigrant, you will say, oh, please pay me whatever you want. Like
Yeah,
you never you don't know there is an upside that is bigger. You're not aware that exists. How why did you have that awareness? What from before prepared you to ask the right question? Because if it didn't work because of the guy, that's irrelevant because it's out of your control. But you had the awareness at that time to ask what I think the question that will have more leverage for you.
absolutely.
What was it before that get you to think like that?
So I I will have to I will have to say I was born entrepreneur. I always, ever since I was a kid, in I was probably, I don't know, 10 when I opened my first business. I would go to downtown Bogota and buy a big bags of candy, and then, pick 3 or 4 candies and put it in a bag, and then I will sell that at school.
Yeah.
And my family, although nobody became super wealthy or anything like that, we all were entrepreneurs. We all,
Mhm.
my mom, my granddad, I always saw someone in my family selling something.
Yes.
So I was born with that, man. And my uncle, my mom, my granddad, although their business, my uncle did make some money, but I always saw them working and being their own boss.
Mm.
No money, no wealth, no big houses and cars or anything like that, but they're always on their own thing.
Sure.
So I think that had a great impact. Then you fast forward, when I worked for corporate America, I learned that in corporate America, you are nothing but a number. You're
Mhm.
a statistic. You are the next hire or the last fire. And I was like, I don't wanna do that. I don't want that for
Yeah.
me. I don't want that for my family. So when he asked me to join the company and go become a salesman, I knew I could sell anything. I kind of have that talent,
Yeah.
but I wanted it more. So it wasn't like I knew I was gonna ask for a piece of the pie from the
Yeah.
first day, but I knew I wanted it to be more than an employee. I wanted to have impact on the decision making.
Yeah.
I wanted to call my own shots.
Sure.
And that's what it pushed me. And look, I was a 24-year-old kid with nothing to lose.
Sure.
So the one thing I've learned, and till today I teach my kids and anybody who asks me, is like, you will never get the answers of the questions that you don't ask.
Oh yeah, that's amazing.
And a lot of people goes through
Yes.
life, plateauing because
No,
they
or
don't
they
ask for the
they
opportunity.
or they ask the question in their own mind. They don't exteriorize it.
Exactly.
And that's interesting because I never lived before I was here, I never had like an entrepreneurial role model or anything. My dad had his job and he went to work every day and he provided like that. And I don't know if that's the whole, everything that affects you. But when I came here and I got my job, I was thankful I had a job.
Yeah.
I, you know, I knew about the idea of having your own business, but I said, well, have your business, but not for me.
Mm.
I need to learn. I need
Yeah.
to do these things. I don't have what it takes now.
Yeah.
Even though right now I know you have what it takes since you're born.
Exactly.
The fact that you're here, you have what it takes. But so dealing with my own things, I never thought like, okay, yeah, that's cool, and I wanted to do it, but I thought I didn't have what it takes, so I had to go through all this period of learning and things like that, and eventually I did it. But I see that interesting because it's whole completely different approach that you don't even choose.
Yeah. You know what? Again, I think is a mindset. You know, I have my life has been characterized by very defining moments. You know, the moment that I moved to the States, the moment that I I learned that my wife was pregnant, the moment that I opened my business. I remember the day that my friend handed me over an envelope and I opened it and it said Genesis Construction of the Carolinas Incorporated.
Yeah.
Those are defining moments, right?
Sure.
So because of my nature of entrepreneur, is being proved that entrepreneurs are very positive. To us, everything is possible.
Yeah.
We're gonna conquer the world. We're gonna struggle through it. But I always had that in mind. Right now, I would say that the biggest obstacle that you have in life is yourself, your mindset. So if you let your mindset tell you, nah, yeah, I don't have what it takes, and maybe one day, then you become what you feed your
Oh
mind
yeah,
with, right?
that's what's gonna happen, and that's what
Exactly.
happened.
You go
So,
if you give yourself 60 minutes to put together this room, it's gonna take you 60 minutes.
yeah,
But if you tell yourself, no, there's no way in hell I can put this together, you're never gonna do it.
sure.
So I guess as I was kind of moving forward, the defining moments, right? I don't remember how I got the Rich Dad Poor Dad book into my hands, and I always been an avid reader, and I read that book and I was
So,
like,
so was that after you had that lunch with the guy when he told you, I changed my mind? Did you read that book after that or before?
after,
Okay,
yeah,
so tell me what happened after that meeting with him.
okay.
So he tells you that the
He
news.
he tells me that, and I'm at that very moment
Yes.
while he's talking, I'm thinking, this is it. I'm out. I'm
Mhm.
gonna maximize what I can out of this situation. I'm gonna save as much money. I had a few projects going, and I knew I'm a very I'm a man of my word.
Yeah.
So I will finish what I promised I would.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I finished my projects.
So what did you tell him? What was your
I tell him,
response?
okay, good. Yeah, I'll take the raise. What's the max? And then the businessman just kind of was
Exploded.
born,
Yeah.
exploded. And I cashed out on as much as I could. I saved all that money. And but again, I was a young kid with no education.
Sure.
Uh, so
With no formal
no
education.
formal education
Yeah.
because I have the life education. So I finish and then I tell him, look, I'm out. But he knew right there and then. I think he saw it on my eyes. He was like,
Sure.
I lost this dude.
Yeah.
And that was it. He lost me, you know. Had the guy, but those are the defining moments. Have he kept me under 10%,
Yes.
I never
Oh.
would have moved on to open my own
Yeah.
company
No. Yeah.
and be here at
Yeah.
some point.
100%.
So, you know, I'm a man of faith, and I believe God has been on those moments defining them,
Mhm.
kind of like pushing me onto them. So I told him, okay, I didn't quit, but 6 months down the road, I told him, look, I'm out.
Yeah.
So Charleston, I spent close to a year in Charleston, and then I moved back to Charlotte. But I started making mistakes again. I took an apartment on a place that I shouldn't have because it was too expensive. Because I have a company truck working for him, I went and bought a sports car that now I have to pay for. So moved back to Charlotte, and I couldn't go and look for the customers. I knew I wanted to be in the industry, right? Because
Yeah.
I kind of have a nick for it. I could sell. I learned the trades. So I was like, no, this is what I want to do. I want to be in construction. Moved back to Charlotte, and I started looking for construction jobs. It turns out it's not that easy. It turns out that if you're a dude with a sports car and some tools in your trunk, you don't get that much credibility.
Yeah.
So I did some odd jobs, and I was kind of paying the bills, and then I was kind of running out of money. One of the things that I helped this guy set up on his company was to get all his employees, key employees, me being one, to sign non-competes. And then guess what? I have a non-compete with him, so I couldn't go back to the people that I have relationships
Right.
with. So those were 6 tough months. I was literally running out of money. In fact, I ran out of money with my last $50 in my pocket on my fancy apartment that I couldn't afford. Um, I cook a lot, so I say, let's end with glory. I went and bought the best steak I could buy at Harris Teeter, and I cook a glorious lunch. And I was like, okay, I'm broke.
With the $50.
Yeah, I'm gonna go get a job tomorrow as a
Yeah.
painter or something. And faith will have it, I get a call from who was one of their customers, and I managed that account before I moved to Charleston. And we have a pretty good relationship with the lady, and she called. I literally was sitting down, Jack. These are the moments that I'm telling you.
Mm-hmm.
I was eating my last steak, and I get the call. She's like, "Hey, Jefferson, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I heard you're back in Charlotte." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm here," but I was down, man. And she's like, "So are you back in the business? Are you working for anybody?" I say, "No, I opened my own company, and I'm trying to get some business." And she said, well, come on by. I want to talk to you. And I say, Pam, I want to be clear. I have a non-compete with this company. I can't do business with you. They can't sue me. She's like, come on by, stop by, talk to me. So I literally finished that steak, hop in my sports car, and make it to her office. And then she tells me, okay, so do you still have your contacts? Yes. Can you do these? Yes. But I can't because I have the non-compete. She's like, forget about that. Do you have any money? Nope, I'm flat broke. Okay. So if you were given the opportunity, would you take it?
Mm-hmm.
I say, of course. But again, I keep bringing all these no's, and she's giving me all these why yes until it kind of hit me. I was like, just listen to the woman. And I say, sure, I can do it. So she literally picks up the phone, calls her accounting department, and say, what's the name of your company? Genesis Construction. I want you to write a check to Genesis Construction for $5,000. He's going to come pick it up, and he's going to start working for us. Make sure you get the, W-2 or no, W-9 and the COI. And she's like, I'm giving you the contract to do the drywall and all these townhomes. And I'm like, I can't come. She's like, I fired that company yesterday. So she literally gave me that opportunity, and that's how Genesis Construction started.
Wow.
Yeah. I was doing trades for a long time. That company held me up, and by the end of 2009, took me down like a sack of potatoes.
The Power of Design podcast is brought to you by OSA Studio, a multidisciplinary design firm focused on creating impactful experiences through the power of design. We partner with our clients to create buildings, interior spaces, brands, and strategies that help you deliver a successful project. As a minority-owned firm, we are committed to building a diverse platform of curious and driven design professionals so we can together pursue our full potential. For more information, please visit us at www.osastudio.com.
Tell me about, okay, you're helping and you're doing these projects. Tell me about starting to hire people, to manage people. Because, one thing is when you do your thing and you help someone, but then making things happen through others, all the structure, anything that it takes to lead others. How did that start, and how is that going on today?
So, leading and managing people is a trade by itself. I had the opportunity to be a project manager for this other company, so I could manage people on the field.
Right, you learn.
I learned,
Yeah.
and there's somebody else dying to do that. And then I always have a need for numbers. I could understand the basics of accounting. Back in Colombia, I did work for my uncle and his business on every summer. So I was able to learn, okay, this is an inventory, this is money coming in, this is money going out.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever is in between is the spread, is what you keep.
Yeah.
So I used those basic concepts, and I went and talked to, can't remember who it was, but this one person told me, QuickBooks, magic word. So from the very first day, it was my friend, the accountant. She told me, you need QuickBooks in order to run your accounting.
Yeah.
So that was the first investment, QuickBooks, and I've been a customer for 20 years. I should get some sort of
Oh yeah.
incentive for doing this, but it helped me keep some sort of order. But that's the second big lesson. I was so focused on making the money and running the operation that I was neglecting the protecting the asset and making sure that my accounts payable was as flowing as the
Yeah.
receivables, and that's how I went down. Yeah. This company who gave me the opportunity for 2 years in a row, man, we worked like there was no tomorrow. We built a whole lot of townhomes, and I was making good money. And what I did was every chunk of money that came in back into the business, pay my suppliers, pay my subcontractors. I've learned by then that you could pass on certain liabilities by subcontracting the work rather than just having payroll employees. So by then, Rich Dad and Poor Dad came in, and the mentality changed to a degree. So I was very happy because I never seen this kind of flow in my life, right? I was able to buy things that not exotic things, but
Yeah, more than what you experienced before.
exactly.
Yeah.
So 2 years go by, and then the invoices I was sending these people is starting to pile up. Now, literally, they don't pile up on a piece of paper, but on QuickBooks. My balance keep on going up on what they owe me. I'm paying everybody, but I'm running out of the money.
This is 2000 what?
This is the beginning, mid 2008.
Yeah.
And I didn't see any of the signs. Back then.
No, it was impossible.
But it was impossible to know what was about to happen.
Yeah.
But have you been more proactive on,
Sure,
listening to the boss?
Yeah.
But I didn't. I was just, 24/7 on the business. And then boom. One day when I saw that pile was too big, the way I looked at it was like, I have all this money saved because one day they're going to pay me, right?
Yeah.
This is my golden goose. And I remember going to that office and say, Misty was the name of the accounting person. Hey, Misty, I'm so sorry to come in like this, and this is one of the things that, like, why would I do that?
Like,
it's my money. You owe me money. Why am I apologizing for this? There's a bunch of invoices that haven't been paid. And I will never forget her face. She said to me, Jefferson, I think you need to speak with such and such. I can't remember that guy's name. But you better go upstairs and talk to him. So I did. Hey, such and such, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. The guy had a face like something bad happened.
Yeah.
But I was so naive, man, that I couldn't really read the room.
But that's not naive, because you didn't experience that before.
I didn't.
So there's no reason. So before you keep going, my experience of that time, and it's interesting because I did not start my own business. I was working for somebody else. I was working at a firm. It was like 2 blocks away from here. When I got hired, we were about 46 people. That was 2006. 2008 happened. The firm went from 46 people to 6.
Oh my God.
I saw how they fire
40
people every Monday.
40 people working with bosses.
Yeah, can you come to the conference room? And you're like, oh my God.
And when are they going to call my name?
Yes, every week. Every week. And every week they showed up and like, oh, please don't call me. And I was one of the ones they left there. It was 3 principals, partners, and 3 architects. And even like that, we have days with nothing to do, and they cut our salaries back to 60%. But I think it's interesting because I didn't see it until later because I was an employee. I'm sure, these poor people, the owners of that firm, I can't imagine the hit they took to take this thriving firm with 46 people, to go to 6. And they disappeared after that. I killed them. Yeah.
It's one of those things you don't know what you don't know, right? And you don't expect something that sudden to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, nobody expected COVID to happen, and boom, we all took that punch, right? Like Mike Tyson said, everybody had a plan until you get punched in the face.
Yeah.
So that was what happened to me. My plan was to cashing all my chips
Yeah.
on those invoices and then onto something else.
Yeah.
And what the guy told me that day was, Jefferson, we won't be able to pay you. And I still to that point didn't understand. So like, okay, it was like a Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
And I said, okay, well, I'll come back Friday,
Yeah.
next Friday. He's like, no, we won't be able to pay you. We
At all.
just filed Chapter 11. What is Chapter 11? That was my reaction.
Yeah.
He's like, we are broke, man. When he saw me like that, he was like, this kid doesn't understand what just happened.
Yes.
So he took the time to explain to me that his company went under and that they didn't have the money to pay me back.
Yes.
Like literally.
Yeah.
So that took me some time. I went home and I was like, so that really means that all this work for 2.5 years, all my capital, man, all my chips were there, are gone? And the answer was yes.
Wow.
By then, I have other customers. I was not only doing these townhomes, but I was working for some flippers. That's what Charlotte started to flip homes. And I worked for this guy. He was my first mentor, a really good guy. He was a real estate agent, turned investor, but his problem was that he spread himself too thin.
Mm-hmm.
And I had like 3 houses that we were finishing for him. And same thing. One day he called and he's like, dude, I don't have money to pay you. I'm going to pay you one day. I just don't know when. And just like that, my entire thing collapsed. Because by then I had a house, I had a car payment, and they all went down. Like the irony of things is that you don't know what you don't know. So this guy who just told me, Jefferson, I will pay you one day, but not now, called me like 3 months later, and everybody was depressed. I took a job for Wells Fargo on a call center, helping people to save their house, people who live in California.
Yeah.
What I'm losing my own house. I remember on the training day, there's a lady teaching us what to say and do over the phone, right? And I'm the guy raising his hand 20 times. Yeah. At the end of the training, she comes to me and she's like, you're losing your house, right? I'm like, yep.
Yeah. Just don't call yourself.
Exactly. Man. So this guy calls me. He's like, hey, what are you doing on a Saturday? What am I doing? I'm at home. I don't have any money to do anything. I'm about to lose my house. It's like, let's go get lunch. I say, Rob, I can't. I don't have any money. Like, I'll buy you lunch. We went to a sandwich shop, and I guess he wanted to talk to somebody. And I thought I was deep over. And I asked him, Rob, I don't know what to do, man. I'm done. And he asked me, okay, Jefferson, how much money do you own? I don't know. I think I own American Express like $1,500 and my mortgage and my car payment. It's like, that it? Dude, I'm $4 million in red. I'm like, what do you mean, red? Like, yeah, I owe the banks $4 million. Because he had got into a bunch of real estate deals. And, when everything went upside down, he was on the red. One day he was on the black, $1 million plus, and the next day he's on the 4. So that kind of gave me perspective, right? Because I was like about to shoot myself for less than, And then there's this guy who's still really under, but he's talking to me about what do we do next, man?
Yeah.
When is it coming? And the minute that this changes, I'm gonna have to do this and I'm gonna do that. And he was 100 times on a deeper hole than mine, but he's already thinking how to get out of the hole.
Yeah.
With me, I was like technically fine, and I was, depressed.
Mm-hmm.
That was another major shift on my mindset. You fall to the ground and then you get up, you dust off your knees and just keep on moving forward.
Wow. So talk to me about Genesis today.
Well, Genesis today, we're a commercial general contractor. We are licensed in South Carolina and North Carolina. We did a lot of residential work for 10 years. After 2009, we switched to the commercial side. Mm-hmm. And we've been doing commercial work ever since. We started doing small renovations. We lost money on our first two jobs because we didn't know how to do it, how to charge for, you know, for those who don't know, commercial and residential work is completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people doesn't get it, but it's just completely two different set of businesses.
Yes.
The way you price, the way you run, the way you manage is different. So we've been doing commercial work for the last 10 years. No, the last 13 years now. We found a niche on the self-storage industry. We do a lot of shell outfits. So our clients have four walls and we go and build whatever they need in the four walls. So we do not residential, but we do retail. We do a lot of commercial warehousing sort of thing,
Yep.
big warehouse with office space and that sort of thing. We've done work for our biggest client is one of the major players on the self-storage industry. We don't work with the city of Raleigh, the city of Charlotte, and we just keep on trying to build more relationships. That's the game.
How do you find the people that work for you, and how do you decide who's a good partner for to be a full-time employee and a subcontractor?
So I have to take a step back to tell you one thing, and is that when I switched to the commercial side, there was one thing that I knew I was missing, and is I knew my gut feeling and my street smart could take me to a place, but I needed it to become more businessman than just a tradesman.
Sure.
So I decided to invest in myself, and that's when education came in. I decided to take a bunch of classes and courses and read a ton of books.
How did you gain access to that information? TV, podcast, people? How did that get to you?
Well, back then it was just books, because I'm talking about almost 15 years ago. So I don't know if podcasting was something back then, but if it was, I wasn't part of it. But books, I read a book from Tony Robbins. I drink the Kool-Aid. Money Mastering the Game.
Mm-hmm.
And that book literally changed my life, because it gave me the perspective of how money wasn't a god or thing to work for, but it was just a tool.
Yeah.
That well used, it could make impact and changes in your life. That was one thing. The second thing was by becoming more aware of how to manage things, and not necessarily building the wall myself, but learning how to run the business. So they call it not working in the business, but on the business.
Sure.
I was like, man, this makes sense. And then, I became part of the Chamber of Commerce, and they mentioned this class, a class that you took with Brenda Anderson. And that class really gave me perspective. And I just kept on reading and reading and taking on to any sort of information that could come my way. By then I'm married. I have my two children. I have this amazing wife that supported me on every endeavor. And I knew then that I have to become better version of myself in order to be able to provide and to run a thriving business. So fast forward to answer your question, is through all these learning, I make so many mistakes that, I did learn from the books, but I really learned a lot from making these mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that you hire slow and you fire quick. Take
Sure.
your time to hire and really get to know the person. There is a lot of ways to get to know personalities through personality testing and all that stuff. Pay somebody to do that if that's not your forte. If, one thing that I've learned is hire your weakness. If you're not good at these, hire someone who's really good for it, and don't see it as an expense, see it as an investment.
Mm-hmm.
And that has paid off quite a bit.
That's awesome, man. How do you feel like looking at yourself from selling candy and putting it together in a bag and to what you're selling today, and that whole journey?
That's a very interesting question. Nobody had asked me that question before. If there is one thing that you and I have talked a lot about, is I I don't celebrate the things that deserve to be celebrated, right?
Yeah.
To me, is a constant hustle. Like you go from one victory to the next one, and then you fall, and then you get up. And if I look back now, I'm proud. I'm proud of what we have accomplished. Notice I say we because no one can build anything really without other people.
Yeah.
You know, um, I'm blessed by the fact that I have an amazing family. I have a lot of supporters. I've been able to put together a very, very, very good team of people. Um, People who I can not only delegate, but I know they support me if I need to be supported. Um, and you try and create a culture in your company that people wants to be part of rather than just not there for a paycheck, because anybody can really give them a paycheck. But I think that our team nowadays is there because they see the mission, and they see that we walk our core values and that we make decisions based on those values rather than just a transactional day-to-day operation kind of thing.
What advice would you give to someone 20, 20, 20 to 25 years old who, they're just getting started with their adult life and they have some ideas and dreams that they want to do, but they see things are difficult? What do you think? What will you advise them to live their best version of their lives? What will they do?
I would say don't ever let the naysayers, and the problem is that most of the times the naysayers are the ones around you,
Uh huh.
tell you that you can't or that you won't. If you can overcome that, if you can find a mentor, and people ask, what's a mentor? How much a mentor cost? A mentor doesn't cost you anything. A mentor is someone, if you want to become the best football player there is, you go watch the best football player there is, find a way to get to him and ask him, would you mind sitting with me for an hour and explaining to me how I can do these things? If that is someone who had gone through what you just are going through right now, that person will sit down with you and give you the answer.
Sure.
Now you have to be mindful on how you're going to use their time. So come to the table with, questions, not just to talk.
Yeah.
Because the biggest asset for all of us is time.
Yeah.
So that successful person that you're trying to be your mentor, he's got a lot or she's got a lot going on. So
Yeah.
sit down there. But if I could give myself, my 25-year-old self, an advice was find a mentor. Mentors are such a crucial thing in your life. And your mentor can be your uncle or your dad's buddy, or go find someone who's really done something with their life. And someone who has no, nothing invested on you, because then there's no emotional relation.
Right.
It's very objective.
Yep.
They will call it like they see it rather than, oh, I don't want to hurt his feelings. And that will do a lot for a young entrepreneur. And don't let anybody tell you that you can't. It's all up here. If you in your mind know and in your heart know that you can do it, there is absolutely nothing that will prevent you from doing it.
True. Tell me about Genesis Construction in the next 5, 10 years. Describe Genesis Construction.
So we've been venturing for the last 3 years in real estate. We're developing. So there is the construction company, and then my wife and I own Genesis Investment Holdings, that is residential kind of side of the business.
Mm-hmm.
So we own real estate and we own some land that we're developing right now. So the idea is to become our own developing business. And then growing the company. I don't think I'm aiming for 200 employees kind of thing. I would love to be, a pretty decent size. I would love to have the opportunity to impact our community and the people who's part of our company. I'm not really guided by revenue, so I'm not going to tell you, I want to be the $200 million company. I don't know about that, but I want to grow it. I want to grow it where it becomes a legacy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but in order to set that up, I don't know if my kids want to run my business one day or not. So probably the conversations that I'm having is, all right, what is my exit strategy? How
Yeah.
far I'm gonna go? How many more years I'm gonna run it? Um, so we are in that process of figuring that out. I gave you a very vague answer.
Sure.
But
Yeah. Whatever. It's your answer.
that is the one. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Do you have any questions for me?
I do, because
Okay.
I've been a witness of your change
Mm-hmm.
and your growth, and I think that our relationship is one that you call me with questions, I call you with questions, and we kind of we've been able to tell one another do this or do that, or if we need that tough love, we've been able to say it to one another.
Sure.
So I believe, I'm not taking credit at all, but I believe I push you a lot to make this move, create this space, become the owner of your own real estate and whatnot. How is that? How you feel in this super kick-ass studio, and not only
Yeah.
renting but owning it? So
Yeah. No, I feel awesome. I love it. I think part of my own internal change, similar to you, I have a hard time celebrating my wins
Mm.
and, really valuing what I bring to the table and, the result of my efforts. I think there is this like humbleness that we're proud to be humble. I don't know if that's cultural, where that comes from, where, yeah, just pay attention, put the focus light on somebody else, not on me. But today with, I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I see the results. I feel energized. I feel excited. I think I'm like, okay, if I can do this, I can do it again 10 times. And then I'll do it again 10 times. So it's kind of learning, because what I realize is I really enjoy changing, becoming a different person, different version of myself.
A better version of yourself.
Yeah. And every time changing more and more and more, where, the experience is just be different, which is hard because, we're wired certain way. So we
Yeah.
tend to default to always the same thing. But if you change, the context change. These things, where you are in your building, where we are in this building, it will not materialize if we had not changed internally as humans,
Absolutely.
if
Yeah.
our mindset had not evolved,
Yeah.
because this is just a reflection of what's happening. And to me, right now, I'm living a dream.
Good for you.
This is a dream. Years ago, back in Colombia, I look at books and said, "Oh my gosh, look at these projects and these architects, amazing work they're doing, and they have their own companies and they drive these nice cars and they have these things." And time passes and I'm there. That's insane.
It is the dream coming true.
Yeah.
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 And have you not removed the naysayer, the naysayer version of Jack out of the equation, you wouldn't be
100%.
where you are.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it is a state of mind.
Yeah.
Making that leap of faith on, I can, I would, I could, rather than finding a no's or the why nots, rather.
Yeah.
Is I think the biggest piece of the picture, right?
Yeah.
And I commend you into what you have accomplished. I'm extremely proud of calling you my friend and everything that you have accomplished.
Awesome. Well, man, this was amazing. We're gonna do another version in Spanish.
Coming up in Español.
It's coming.
Yeah.
So thanks so much, man.
Thank you, Jack.
Cheers. Thank you for listening to the Power of Design podcast. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and review if you like this content. And find us online at thepowerofdesignpodcast.com. I invite you to join my mission to become a better version of yourself through the power of design.